They believed it would all go unseen. They were certain their hushed conversations would remain secret. Their deceptions would stay convincing. Their harsh actions would stay concealed in the dark. But here is the reality. Nothing remains hidden indefinitely. The cosmos keeps a record. And at this moment, every single action they took to harm you is being brought into the light of day. They craved your quiet. They demanded your defeat. But what they've accomplished is only revealing their own role as the antagonists in this narrative. You must listen to this because what was done to you was not minor. It was not merely chatter. It was not simply dismissal. It was a deliberate campaign to shatter a pure heart that never sought conflict. They commanded respect while systematically removing your dignity. They sought acclaim while systematically destroying your reputation. That's not merely incorrect. It's betrayal in its most fundamental form, and the cosmos doesn't simply ignore when purity is tormented in that way. It observes, it notes, and in time it answers. And dear soul, if these words are resonating deeply with you now, it's because you are in the midst of that transformation. The very air has shifted, the energy has transformed. You can almost feel the quiet that surrounds you. It's the quiet that arrives after a tempest. Their clamor has faded, their mockery has weakened behind sealed doors. They are anxious. They question why their old methods are failing, why the attention is no longer favorable, why the world no longer yields as it once did. This is where you focus. This is where you sit with more presence. And as you do, I want to express my gratitude for joining this cause. Dear soul, if these words feel as if they are meant for you, click the like button and subscribe. It's more than a simple gesture. It's a method to reciprocate the energy, to amplify this shared voice, and to ensure reality travels further than their falsehoods ever could. Now let's go on, because the narrative doesn't stop at the quiet. It starts there. What you're observing right now is the result of a fight they assumed they had won. And yet, you are still here, still ascending, still unassailable. That's the outcome they never anticipated. They presumed the burden of their disloyalty would destroy you, but instead it forged you into resilience. They presumed your solitude would make you fall apart, but instead it honed your clarity. They presumed turning others against you would leave you defenseless, but now you hold a strength that frightens them. Consider history for a second. On every occasion, innocence was scorned. Every time a righteous voice was quieted, the consequence was never postponed indefinitely. From ancient systems that held deceivers accountable with the very punishment they planned for others, to modern truth-tellers who dismantled entire regimes, reality has always had a powerful way of returning. They may celebrate for a time, but they never hold the final victory. And right now, dear soul, they are sensing it. They're anxious because their performance is concluding. They're unsettled because their disguises are falling. They're disturbed because they cannot reverse the truth the cosmos has already imprinted on their story. They tormented purity and demanded reverence, but reverence isn't taken by force. It's gained through principle. They possessed none. That's why their foundation is disintegrating piece by piece, right before you. Here's the truth many refuse to acknowledge. Those who attempted to destroy you are now tormented by your memory. Every falsehood they circulated has transformed into their own fear. Every instance they ridiculed your suffering, they authored their own collapse with invisible writing. And now that writing is becoming visible, the cosmos doesn't offer exemptions when the transgression is disloyalty, and the reckoning has already started. So breathe deeply, dear soul. You're not merely existing within Astri. You're standing within proof that the cosmos witnessed their actions, proof that their strategies were ineffective, proof that your name, once tarnished, is now being elevated higher than before. They wanted to label you with their malice, but instead their malice labeled them, and the world is starting to recognize the distinction. Stay with me, because what follows isn't merely revelation, it's completion. This is the instant where dignity returns to your identity, not because you pleaded for it, but because the cosmos required it. And when that occurs, no adversary, no group, no false testimony can remove it. And dear soul, before we analyze this point by point, I want you to stop and truly absorb this. The cosmos is not merely observing, it is acting. Every shadow they cast on your name is being illuminated, and every injury they inflicted is being documented as proof against them. That's why this instant is significant. Don't just hear it as another online statement. Stay with me, because the further we go, the more you'll understand how their cruelty has already transformed into your triumph. If this message is striking you deeply right now, leave a comment with the number 111 to signify that you will not let their deceptions define you any longer. And as you're doing it, ensure you're subscribed and connected with us, because voices like yours are the reason reality continues to spread. The longer you reflect on this, the more irrefutable it will feel. You'll sense the calling. That's not accidental. That's confirmation you are the one this was intended for. So focus, dear soul. The quiet around you is not vacant. It's the sound of justice preparing to arrive. And now, let's examine it step by step. Number 1, they didn't merely tarnish your name. They placed themselves under judgment without realizing it. When they deceived others about you, they didn't just distort your narrative. They authored their own admission, sealed in the cosmos's record of proof. Dear soul, let's be direct. This wasn't innocent conversation. This wasn't the kind of talk that fades in a few days. No, what they did was intentional, sharp, and created to remove your self-respect. They didn't just deceive about you. They constructed entire false narratives and presented them as fact, believing noon would discover the truth. But here's the brutal reality they never saw coming. The cosmos was listening, and it does not tolerate defamation lightly. Consider this. Why do falsehoods cause such pain? Because they're not simply words. They are weapons aimed at the core of who you are. When someone states, "You made an error," that's a disagreement. But when they state, "You are the error," that's character assassination. They didn't merely blame you for behaviors. They rewrote your identity. They clothed your innocence in their shame, hoping the world would accept the disguise. But the cosmos sees more clearly than any mask, and it saw the truth. And here's where it becomes decisive. They thought their deceptions diminished you. They thought dragging your name through filth meant you'd never stand again. But filth has always been the ground where seeds sprout. Every untrue word they buried you beneath only nourished your fortitude. Now as you stand stronger, their deceptions are reversing. What they believed would silence you is becoming the most powerful evidence of your endurance. Perhaps you've questioned yourself. Why was I the target? Why expend this effort? The answer is clear. They were afraid of what they could not control. People do not invest energy inventing stories about those who are insignificant. They pursue the ones who hold significance, the ones whose very being challenges their comfort. You weren't just another individual in the space. You were the one the space had to notice. And when insecure individuals cannot remove your presence, they attempt to remove your standing. That was the purpose. But dear soul, let me remind you, truth has a longer duration than lies. Lies run fast, but truth remains. Lies can seize attention, but truth holds it. Lies can create temporary darkness, but truth is the dawn that dissolves them. The cosmos doesn't require your defense. It simply allows time to remove the disguise from the deceivers. And right now, their disguises are falling. Let's not soften it, they weren't accidental. They were malicious. They didn't merely err in a moment of anger. They orchestrated plans. Think about how purposeful it was. Smiling at you while spreading venom behind you, distorting events until even strangers began to question. That's not trivial. That's predatory. But predators always miscalculate the moment the hunted grows claws. History has demonstrated this cycle repeatedly. Innocent voices slandered as culpable only for the truth to reverse everything later. Truth-tellers labeled as deceivers until the truth dismantled institutions. Thinkers ridiculed as insane until their visions reshaped the world. And here you are in the same line of fire, not because you were fragile, but because your very life disrupted their false reality. And now here's the paradox. The falsehoods they believed would shield them are revealing them. Every charge they leveled at you has become a reflection of their own actions. They claimed you were unstable. Now observe their disorder. They claimed you were untrustworthy. Now their reliability is failing. They claimed you were the issue. Now the issue is marked upon them, visible to all who once trusted them. That's how the cosmos operates. It doesn't merely dismiss lies, it transforms them into evidence of the deceiver's nature. Let me share a personal observation here. I've witnessed this occur directly. Individuals who built empires of deceit around an innocent person only to watch those empires fall in the most humiliating manner. At first it seems the lies are victorious. You feel alone, vulnerable, defeated. But then weeks, months, sometimes even years later, the truth begins to emerge like light through openings. The very same individuals who turned against the innocent RA, suddenly seeking forgiveness, suddenly recalling your true character. And the deceivers, they're left standing in the wreckage of their own plots. Dear soul, that's the cycle you're entering now. Their words didn't just wound you, they bound them. They chained themselves to outcomes they cannot avoid. Because when you speak falsely against someone who carries light, the cosmos doesn't forget, records. And every lie spoken is another weight tied to their feet, while they pretend to move forward. Here's the question you might be holding. Do I need to retaliate? Do I need to restore my name? And the answer is no. The battle isn't yours to fight anymore. You've already triumphed by enduring. The cosmos has already taken the case, while you remained quiet, believing nothing was changing. Everything was changing. Your silence was not defeat. It wastes testimony, and testimony doesn't need to yell. It needs to persist. So what occurs next? Restitution. But not the kind you administer. It's the quiet kind, the kind that reorders lives, the kind that turns every false word into a spotlight they cannot avoid. You'll see them uneasy, fearful, stumbling in spaces they once controlled. You'll detect the strain in their voice, the despair in their tales, the way they stumble over their own inventions. That's the sound of the cosmos collecting their debt. And you're the proof that purity doesn't stay hidden. You're the evidence that no slander lasts forever. You are living confirmation that the cosmos is angered on your behalf. Because dignity is returning to your name whether they accept it or not. They didn't just lie about you. They lied in the presence of the only witness that matters. And now the judgment is recorded. Let this empower you. Let this make you more resilient. Don't expend energy anticipating their collapse. Their collapse is already in progress. Your focus is your ascent. Every day you move forward. Every step you take with honor. You remind the world who was at fault and who was blameless all along. And dear soul, trust me, they sense it. Every rumor is a phantom haunting them now. Every false word is an anchor pulling them down. They thought you'd be eliminated, but instead, they're the ones disappearing. So stand firm. Don't retreat, don't waver. The same lies that once threatened to ruin you are now the most powerful rhythm proclaiming your survival. And that survival is the one thing they can never alter. Number 2, they didn't merely wrong you. They mocked the cosmos's selection. When they ridiculed you, they weren't mocking your imperfections. They were mocking the cosmos's decision to place you beyond their influence. Dear soul, let's state something clearly. They didn't target you because of your idiosyncrasies, your character, or some minor disagreement. No, this was never about personal dislike. This was about defiance. They weren't upset at what you did. They were enraged at who you are. They weren't fighting your nature. They were fighting the decision the cosmos made to place significance on your name. That's what made their assault so severe. Let's be truthful here. If you were ordinary, if you faded into the background like others, they would have paid you no mind. But you weren't unnoticed, were you? Your very existence was a reminder that the cosmos's favor passed over them. Picture this, a room full of people seeking validation, performing their parts, demanding the attention, and then you enter, composed, genuine, not following their script, and the focus turns to you. Do you understand what that does to fragile egos? It breaks them. Envy is never about what you possess. It's about what they believe they deserve. That's why their hatred is so profound. It's not your achievements that disturb them. It's that the cosmos granted you what they assumed was theirs. They were waiting for validation, praise, acceptance. And when it didn't come, they couldn't comprehend it. So instead of confronting their own rejection, they cast you as the opponent. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why me? Why do they invest this much effort in tearing me down? The answer is harsh but liberating. It's because you reveal them. Your presence is a reflection they cannot avoid. You are proof that authentic power doesn't come from seeking endorsement. It comes from being selected by something greater than social maneuvering, popularity, or public approval. And the fact that you didn't conform to their narrative made it even worse. They expected someone refined, someone they could influence, someone they could applaud without feeling threatened. But the cosmos chose you. Imperfect, authentic, perceptive, and unstoppable. And they're sent it. Nothing reveals imposters faster than the ascent of the genuine. That's you. Your authenticity made their acts appear inferior. Your quiet power made their loud displays seem needy. Your presence reminded them that they weren't chosen. Not because they weren't vocal enough, but because they weren't authentic enough. And instead of embracing that reality, they attacked. Think about how irrational that is. Imagine a crowd shouting at the ocean because they dislike the waves. Imagine them standing in the rain, yelling that water shouldn't fall from the sky. That's what their opposition to you resembled. They thought their disapproval could reverse the cosmos's choice. They thought if enough voices protested against you, perhaps destiny would change. That's not just presumption, that's illusion. Here's the paradox. The more they assaulted you, the more they demonstrated why they were never selected. Because a person aligned with truth doesn't fight the cosmos's decisions. They honor them. They don't waste their energy trying to dismantle what wasn't created by human hands. They applaud, they encourage, they grow. But these individuals, they attempted to rewrite fate with lies and sabotage. And all they truly accomplished was marking themselves as unworthy. Jealousy is the disguise failure wears when it won't acknowledge defeat. Observe them now. Resentful, uneasy, craving attention while acting indifferent. That's what occurs when you mock the cosmos's decision. They thought they could remove your purpose by denying it. But dear soul, you are the living contradiction to every script they practiced. You are proof that the unseen, the ignored, the undervalued are precisely the ones the cosmos entrusts with influence. And let's be even more candid. They didn't just disapprove of you. They mocked the process that brought you here. They mocked the very wisdom that deemed you were prepared. They mocked equity. They mocked order. They mocked justice. They mocked the seat of balance itself. And what happens when people mock order? The cosmos doesn't debate. It rectifies. And rectification is never silent. Imagine a courtroom where the guilty ridicule the judge, thinking their mockery grants them freedom. Imagine them whispering together, scheming as if the law is absent. That's how your adversaries behaved. But dear soul, what they didn't comprehend is that the judge doesn't require their approval. The ruling isn't altered by their laughter. Their ridicule didn't cancel your calling. It only revealed their rebellion. Perhaps part of you questions, will they ever confess what they did? Will they ever apologize? Here's the reality. Many will not. Their ego is too immense. Their delusion too profound. But they won't have to confess for the world to witness it. Their collapse will become the admission they refuse to voice. Their losses will become the apology they never offered you. Their silence, once filled with judgment, will transform into proof of their own disgrace. And here's where it becomes empowering. While they mocked, you persisted. While they attacked, you built with the rubble. While they tried to strip your honor, you wore silence like protection. That's what separates the chosen from the pretenders. They thought your quiet meant fragility. They didn't know it meant control. They thought your lack of retaliation meant culpability. They didn't know it meant fortitude. And now fortitude has accomplished what their assaults could never hold. It has validated you. Mockery is the tool of the powerless. That's all they possessed. They couldn't remove your gift. They couldn't undo your endurance. They couldn't steal your presence. So they mocked, thinking scorn would reduce you. But scorn is nothing but recycled insecurity. And every time they mocked you, they revealed more about themselves than they did about you. Dear soul, let this settle within you. They didn't just mock you. They mocked the decision to place you here. And that decision is irrevocable. No lie, no sabotage, no crowd can revoke what's already been sealed in the cosmos's order. Their rebellion wasn't against you. It was against reality itself. And nobody wins a conflict against reality. So stand firm in this. Their mockery was the loudest proof that you are distinct. Their resistance was the clearest indication that you carry what they lack. Their assaults were confirmation that the cosmos has invested in you, and their collapse, that will be the ultimate proof. Because, dear soul, their laughter was never strength. It was fear. Their gossip was never truth. It was a disguise. Their mockery was never about you. It was about their refusal to accept the truth. And the truth has already ruled. You were selected. They were not. And no amount of mocking will ever change that. Number 3, they desired your downfall because your purity revealed their decay. The culpable never fear deception. They fear purity because purity makes their corruption impossible to conceal. Dear soul, they didn't want reality. They wanted destruction. That's the stark truth. Your purity wasn't something they ignored. It was the reflection they couldn't bear to face. You weren't the danger because you were culpable of anything. You were the danger because you were not. And that distinction alone transformed their envy into battle. Think about it. Imagine a pack of wolves circling, not because you threatened them, but because you stood there calm, unshaken, refusing to join their noise. That silence, that peace enraged them. You weren't chaotic enough to blend into their turmoil, and that's why they couldn't ignore you. Your calm spirit revealed their inner storm. Your integrity revealed their stains, and so they decided that your eradication was essential for their survival. When purity enters the room, corruption begins to panic. That's precisely what occurred. You didn't argue, you didn't pursue their lies. You simply lived with honesty, and it was enough to collapse the fragile structure of excuses they were standing on. Your presence alone communicated the truth they'd spent years hiding. And when truth is that irrefutable, the culpable will always attempt to silence it. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why were they so desperate to witness me fall? Why did they need me to break? The answer is straightforward. They needed you stained. They needed something to justify the filth they were already submerged in. If you remained clean, their entire narrative fell apart. So they provoked you, trapped you, conspired against you, hoping you'd lose composure. But you didn't, and that maddened them. So they intensified. They exaggerated events, invented scandals, portrayed you as the antagonist in their drama. They weren't merely attacking you. They were trying to eliminate you. They wanted your credibility destroyed, your impact silenced, your name stripped of respect. But here's the fact they couldn't accept. Lies can spread rapidly, but truth outlives them all. They went searching for stains and ended up sinking in their own mire. That's the poetic justice unfolding now, because, dear soul, the cosmos witnessed it all. Every distorted word, every staged betrayal, every attempt to crucify what was clean. And now the scales are moving, not because you were flawless, but because your purity remained unshaken in the face of their hatred. And that's exactly why justice is no longer silent. It's thundering. Number 4, the cosmos' silence wasn't absence. It was proof being collected. Silence doesn't mean consent. It means the cosmos is building a case too comprehensive for them to escape. Dear soul, they misinterpreted the quiet for fragility. They thought that because nothing occurred immediately, it meant they were free to act as they wished. They misinterpreted the stillness of the cosmos as a sign of permission, not realizing that silence is often the most ominous sign of all. When the cosmos goes quiet, it's not empty. It's documenting. Every whisper, every false friendship, every weapon disguised as a grin. It was all recorded. They thought they escaped consequence. In reality, they were walking deeper into their own file of evidence. Imagine this, a storm gathering offshore. The sky appears calm, the water's still, and everyone assumes it's insignificant. But beneath the surface, the current is changing, pulling with more force, preparing for a wave that no one can avoid. That's what's been happening around you. The quiet wasn't abandonment. It was pressure increasing. Patience isn't absence, it's accuracy. If the cosmos had intervened too soon, your strength would have been doubted. People would have claimed you were saved instead of resilient. But now there's no question. You endured it without breaking, without soiling your hands, without falling into their snares. And that's precisely what makes their culpability unquestionable. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why was it permitted to continue for so long? Why didn't it conclude earlier? Because, dear soul, sometimes the truth must be revealed without interference. If it ended quickly, they could have hidden behind justifications. But extended over time, their corruption displayed itself in full clarity for all to see. The same silence they ridiculed is the silence that sealed their destiny. While they laughed at your pain, the cosmos was giving them rope, not as a gift, but as evidence. And now that rope has transformed into the consequence of their own actions. Nothing exaggerated, nothing omitted. Everyone involved will face their portion exactly as they earned it. You weren't forgotten. You were being defended in a deliberate, unfolding manner, and now Thesalence has concluded. The wave has reached the shore. The case is concluded and the judgment is in motion. Number 5, they thought they were testing you, but it was their trial all along. Those who set traps for you were only stepping into the evidence they built against themselves. Dear soul, they genuinely believed they were the examiners. They thought you were sitting in their courtroom, under their judgment, with them holding the pen of criticism. Every targeted attack, every cruel smile, every provocation they placed before you. They thought they were measuring your breaking point, but they had it reversed. You were never the one being evaluated. They were. Your patience revealed their impatience. Your silence revealed their noise. Your endurance became the illumination, showing how far they were willing to go when they thought there would be no repercussion. They assumed they were dismantling you, But the entire time they were unraveling themselves in full view of the cosmos. Imagine this. Someone directing a magnifying glass at you, expecting to burn holes, only to realize the lens was reversed and the light was scorching them instead. That's what occurred here. They mocked, they pressured, they scorned, but all they did was prove their own corruption. Perhaps you've asked, why did I have to endure so much? Why was I placed in that situation? Because the cosmos already knew your strength, the silence, the calm, the refusal to fall. It wasn't about proving you. It was about exposing them. Every false smile that concealed envy, every false concern that was really manipulation, every bitter word disguised as advice. You revealed all of it simply by standing firm. A mirror doesn't lie. It just reflects what's in front of it. And that's what you were to them, dear soul, a living mirror. They saw themselves every time they attempted to distort you. They could have walked away. They could have chosen humility. But they didn't. They chose cruelty. They chose envy. They chose darkness. And every choice sealed their own outcome. They thought this was a contest. They thought they were witnessing your downfall, but the truth is, they were being assessed the whole time. The cosmos was measuring their limits, not yours. And now the mask is removed. What they thought was your trial has been exposed as theirs. And the verdict? They failed. Number 6, they made you their target. But this time the cosmos is collecting the debt. They thought breaking you would cleanse their wrongs, but all they did was write their guilt in indelible ink. Dear soul, they didn't just mistreat you, they sacrificed you. They acted as if offering you to the wolves would somehow make their own inner demons easier to bear. They projected their guilt onto your name and convinced themselves that what they were doing wasn't cruelty, it was justice. But let's be clear, there was nothing pure in their motives. There was no cleansing. There was no higher purpose. It was ego. It was envy. It was malice. They twisted every truth about you to make their story work. Your silence, they labeled it culpability. Your strength, they labeled it arrogance. Your insight, they labeled it defiance. They made you the target for everything they couldn't fix in themselves. And because you didn't fight back, because you didn't play their corrupt game, you became the perfect victim. Purity irritates corruption, and you were proof of everything they lacked. When wolves can't conceal their hunger, they create alarm to blame for their appetite. That's what they did. They needed someone to destroy, someone to erase, someone to pin their failures on. And they chose you. Not because you were culpable, but because you were safe enough not to retaliate. That was their miscalculation. Perhaps you've wondered, why me? Why was I the one they decided to destroy? Because your clean record left them no excuse. Because your compassion revealed how cruel they had become. Because your restraint exposed their lack of control. They weren't seeking healing. They were seeking a victim. But here's the reversal they never anticipated. The cosmos isn't letting it pass. What they did to you is now their outstanding debt. And every tear, every insult, every betrayal has been added to Thelager. Justice isn't a suggestion, it's a sentence. And that sentence is already unfolding. Pain doesn't vanish. It becomes proof. And now, dear soul, the very suffering they tried to bury is the illumination exposing them. They thought your silence would protect them, but silence only made the case stronger. They didn't just harm the innocent. They handed the cosmos undeniable proof. And now the debt is due. Number 7. They built fame off your ruin. But now the cosmos is flipping the script. When liars build their empires on your name, the cosmos ensures those empires collapse on top of them. Dear soul, they didn't just attempt to break you. They used you. They transformed your pain into their platform, your struggles into their storylines, and your silence into their stage. The more they dragged your name through the mud, the more attention they collected. The more they humiliated you, the more powerful they felt. They built their reputation on your suffering as if your downfall was their currency. Think about it. Every time they exaggerated your flaws, they gained sympathy. Every time they mocked your healing, they gained an audience. They portrayed themselves as heroes, victims, or wise counselors, all while quietly feeding off your humiliation. That's not honesty. That's manipulation dressed up as truth. Reputation built on lies is like a house built on sand. It sinks the moment truth emerges, and that's what's occurring now. The cosmos never rewards dishonor. It documents it. Everything they stole, every ounce of credibility they siphoned from your name is now collapsing under its own weight. Their applause is fading. Their audience is restless. The mask no longer fits. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why did people believe them? Why did no one question their story? because manipulation works for a while, but results don't lie. Over time, the cracks in their narrative started showing. The people who once applauded them are now uneasy, witnessing outcomes that don't match the image. Their peace is gone. Their favor is disintegrating. Their alliances are unraveling. Because nothing built on deception endures. Silence isn't fragility, it's strategy. You didn't have to fight for vindication. You didn't have to retaliate. The cosmos is managing their reversal for you. And now the same spaces where they attempted to shame you are the same spaces where their shame is unfolding. That's not coincidence. That's correction. Dear soul, your name is being restored organically. Not through revenge, but through reality. Not through force, but through truth. And while they bear the rotten fruit of dishonor, you are ascending untouched, proving once again that real favor doesn't require performance. It stands on its own. Number 8, the cosmos was never neutral. It was just waiting for the balance to break. Music. Patience isn't fragility. It's the cosmos giving liars enough rope to entangle their own credibility. Dear soul, you once misinterpreted silence for uncertainty. You thought perhaps the stillness meant the cosmos was deliberating, weighing both sides, wondering if you somehow deserved the betrayal. But the truth is, there was never a question. The cosmos saw everything from the beginning. Every lie whispered, every scheme plotted, every smile that masked a weapon behind your back. There was no neutrality. There was only timing. Silence wasn't hesitation. It was strategy. Imagine a chess grandmaster allowing an opponent to make move after move, thinking they're winning, not realizing every piece is being positioned for a final, decisive move. That's what occurred here. They mistook patience for permission. They thought that because no lightning struck mid-lie, they were safe. But in reality, every false word was another brick stacked on the wall of their own downfall. Delay isn't denial. It's precision. The longer they played their game, the more they exposed themselves. The more they manipulated, the more obvious the truth became. Their trap wasn't your prison. It was their evidence. And now the scales have tipped. Perhaps you've asked, why didn't it end sooner? Why was I left standing in the middle of so much injustice? Because, dear soul, justice that comes too quickly can be questioned. Justice that arrives after full exposure becomes undeniable. That's why the duration mattered. Not to test you, but to reveal them completely. And now the balance has shifted. Their false power structures are disintegrating. Their influence is unraveling. Their carefully curated images are decaying in the light. There's no reversing it. No rebranding. No. We've all made errors, speech convincing enough to erase what was done. The damage they attempted to assign to you has become their inheritance. When the scales tip, they don't return to balance. They crush the ones who made them heavy. That's what you're observing unfold. And the best part, you don't have to plead your case anymore. The verdict is already written. The same silence that once gave them room is now the silence that buries them publicly, completely, permanently. Number 9, they weren't fighting you. They were terrified of who you were becoming. They didn't attack your present. They attacked your future, because even your shadow was too powerful for them to handle. Dear soul, make no mistake. Their war wasn't against who you were. It was against who they sensed you were about to become. They saw glimpses of the healed, elevated, unstoppable version of you, and it terrified them. Your potential made their stomachs turn, because deep down they knew the moment you stepped fully into your power. Their lies wouldn't last a day under the weight of your truth. Imagine this, a seed just breaking the soil, and already people are panicking about the size of the tree it might become. That's how they treated you. They saw the signs, the strength forming quietly beneath the surface, and they rushed to cut you down before you could grow. They spread rumors. They twisted truths. They manufactured drama to suffocate your credibility before people had the chance to see your fruit. They weren't just trying to hurt you. They were trying to erase your future. Fear doesn't fight what is. It fights what is coming. That's why their attacks felt relentless. They weren't punishing your mistakes. They were preemptively striking against your destiny. They knew that once your name rose, their illusions would collapse. So they tried to assassinate your reputation before your platform could even rise. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why would they waste so much energy on me when I wasn't even at my peak? The answer is simple. They saw it before you did. They sensed the fire before you felt the flame. And instead of preparing themselves to grow, they tried to extinguish you. But here's the twist they didn't expect. Every lie, every betrayal, every attempt to bury you only built the stage for your unveiling. Burial looks the same as planting until the seed breaks the ground. They thought they were ending you, but really they were positioning you. Now their schemes are exhausted, their arsenal empty, and here you are ascending. Not by retaliating, not by forcing revenge, but by existing as irrefutable proof that no scheme succeeded. Your rise itself is the judgment. Your success is the rebuttal, and nothing terrifies them more than watching you become everything they feared you would be. Number 10. They mistook your restraint for fragility, and that became their downfall. Mercy isn't fragility. It's a warning, and when ignored, it transforms into a weapon. Dear soul, they thought your silence meant fear. They saw you stand still while they spoke endlessly, and they convinced themselves you lacked the courage to respond. They mistook your restraint for inability. They mistook your mercy for powerlessness. What they never understood was that your silence wasn't submission. It was strategy. You weren't scared. You were disciplined. You weren't avoiding the fight. You were letting the cosmos handle the case in ways no retaliation ever could. Think about it. You had enough truth to dismantle them. Enough evidence to burn their carefully crafted image to the ground. You could have reversed the narrative, humiliated them with precision, matched their venom with your own. But you didn't. Why? Because you understood something they didn't. That restraint is sometimes the most powerful weapon. Strength isn't always proven by striking back. Sometimes it's proven by refusing to expend a single strike. Perhaps you've wondered, did they think I was fragile all this time? Did they think I couldn't fight? Yes, they did. They bragged, laughed, and strutted around as if they had won. But what they didn't realize was that every act of restraint was evidence stacking against them. Mercy is not approval. Delay is not denial. The cosmos doesn't withhold justice because it forgot. It withholds it to give people space to improve, and when they use that space to double down on cruelty, they're not winning. They're digging their own graves slowly, proudly, and in full view of the world. When mercy ends, exposure begins. And dear soul, that's precisely what's occurring now. The protection they thought they had has lifted. Their alliances are drying up. Their own words are turning against them. The same audience that applauded with them is now questioning everything. Their downfall isn't just punishment, it's clarity. They were never untouchable. They were simply spared because of you. And now that sparing is gone, you didn't need to destroy them. You just needed to outlast them. And your survival is the final verdict, the irrefutable proof that their arrogance authored their own ending. Number 11. They thought delay meant safety, but it was really their sentence being written. The cosmos doesn't forget, it just waits. And the longer it waits, the heavier the judgment falls. Dear soul, they mocked you openly. They whispered your name with arrogance, laughed at your tears, and sneered at your resilience. They convinced themselves nothing was coming, when no door slammed shut, when no lightning struck. When you didn't retaliate, they grew bold. They thought silence meant safety. They thought delay meant disinterest. But delay is not disinterest. Delay is build-up. Think of thunder. The sky darkens, but the sound doesn't crash immediately. It rumbles beneath the surface, growing heavier until the perfect moment when the entire land trembles under its force. That's how the cosmos works. Not rushing in to spook them, but waiting until the response is undeniable. Patience was never approval. It was precision. Patience is the rope the guilty used to entangle themselves. And that's exactly what occurred. The longer the cosmos held back, the more reckless they became. They mocked harder. They recruited others. They doubled down on their lies, thinking they were untouchable. But every word was rope. Every scheme was evidence. And now the rope has tightened. Perhaps you've wondered, why didn't it end sooner? Why did they get away with it for so long? Because, dear soul, the waiting wasn't for them. It was for you. The delay ensured that when judgment landed, no one could twist it into your revenge. No one could say you wished for their downfall. The weight of consequence had to be so undeniable that even their allies couldn't defend them. And now the storm has arrived. Their laughter is silent. Their confidence has turned into confusion. The thunder they swore would never come is shaking their foundations. This isn't negotiation, it's retribution. The delay they thought was safety was actually the multiplier of their sentence. The storm doesn't miss. It arrives exactly on time. And dear soul, that's what you're observing unfold. The scales have tipped. The cosmos is delivering what was always promised. Their arrogance wrote the script. Their actions sealed the verdict. And now the storm is here with no way out. Number 12, your silence wasn't fragility. It was evidence that sealed their fate. Silence isn't surrender. It's the most powerful testimony the cosmos can use against liars. Dear soul, they mistook your quiet for defeat. They thought your lack of retaliation proved they'd broken you. But your silence was never fragility. It was strategy. Not in the court of gossip or public opinion, but in the higher court, where truth always has the final word. While they shouted, lied, and twisted every detail, you remained composed, not because you had nothing to say, but because you knew exactly who was watching. Sometimes the most powerful argument is made in stillness. Every time you chose peace over retaliation, you were building evidence. Every time you walked away instead of responding, the cosmos documented your integrity and their cruelty. You could have exposed them, humiliated them, burned their entire performance to the ground, but you didn't. You chose control, you chose dignity, and that choice turned into their undoing. Imagine this. Two fighters in a ring. One throws wild punches, desperate for dominance. The other stands still, calm, letting the reckless one exhaust themselves. Every missed swing exposing their lack of control. That was you. They performed, you endured, and your restraint became the reflection of their corruption. Perhaps you've asked yourself, did my silence make me appear fragile? Did it make them think I was powerless? For a moment, yes, it did. They laughed louder, bragged more boldly, and convinced themselves they'd won. But silence doesn't mean absence. Silence means every injustice was being recorded, every betrayal carefully noted. You weren't overlooked. You were being documented. Restraint isn't fragility. It's evidence. And now the file is complete. Your silence didn't disqualify you. It qualified you. It proved who you are, and it revealed who they are. Their arrogance is the only thing left on trial, and the verdict is not up for debate. Dear soul, vindication isn't just arriving. It's justified. Not because you shouted loud enough, but because your silence spoke louder than their chaos. The very thing they mocked is the very thing sealing their downfall. What they thought was your fragility has become their greatest evidence of guilt. Number 13, they tried to erase you, but the cosmos is etching your name in permanence. Erasure is temporary, but truth is eternal. And the cosmos always writes in ink, not pencil. Dear soul, they thought they held the pen to your story. They believed if they erased your name from conversations, rewrote the narrative, or buried your truth under gossip, you would vanish. And for a while, it looked like they succeeded. People turned cold. Opportunities disappeared. Your character was doubted. It seemed like their false version of you had become the only version. But here's the twist. They forgot the cosmos has final editorial authority. Every chapter they attempted to destroy is being recovered. And not just recovered, redeemed. Your name isn't being cleared in whispers. It's being restored in boldness. The same lies they spread are now fueling the proof of your authenticity. The very doors they slammed shut are creaking open again. Not because you pleaded, but because the truth has a way of breaking locks they thought were permanent. History can be delayed, but it can't be deleted. That's what they failed to comprehend. They thought their words would become the record. But the cosmos is rewriting history with your name carved into it. Not in fading ink, but in indelible script. What they erased is now being highlighted. What they twisted is now being straightened in full view of the same people who once doubted you. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why did it take so long? Why did I have to endure being written off? Because sometimes the cosmos doesn't just restore, it rewrites. It doesn't merely fix the broken pages. It flips the script so completely that your vindication becomes undeniable. The interruption wasn't the ending. It was the setup for a rewrite so powerful the liars don't even get to footnote it. The pen of justice always outlasts the pencil of gossip. And dear soul, that's what's happening now. They don't get a say anymore. They don't get to edit. They don't get to frame vestry in their favor. All they can do is stand back and watch as your name, once dragged through dirt, is lifted, polished, and displayed with honor. Your story was never over. It was only interrupted. And now the next chapter belongs to you. Number 14, they tried to erase your value. Now the cosmos is forcing them to acknowledge it out loud. Disrespect declared in public cannot be erased with apologies whispered in private. Dear soul, they thought they could dishonor you in the open and then whisper regret behind closed doors. They thought invalidating you in front of a crowd could be undone with a quiet excuse no one else would hear. But the cosmos isn't allowing that. Not after the damage. Not after the deliberate attempt to strip you of dignity while others watched. Repentance isn't just feeling sorry. It's restoration. They didn't just hurt your feelings. They tried to dismantle your credibility, stain your name, and bend your character into a lie in places where you weren't present to defend yourself. And now the cosmos is demanding balance. The same moods that mocked you will be pressed to honor you. The same voices that rallied others against you will be forced to point back and admit, we were wrong. What is broken in public must be repaired in public, or it was never repaired at all. This isn't about humiliating them, it's about correction. Balance isn't halfway. Justice doesn't stop at silence. Anything less than full reversal is unfinished business. And the cosmos doesn't leave cases unfinished. Perhaps you've wondered, will anyone ever confess what they did? Will the truth ever come out? Yes, and it won't come quietly. The reversal will be loud, clear, undeniable, because silence might soothe them, but it doesn't heal you. Honor lost in public must be restored in public. That's how the balance is set straight. And here's the truth. They'll face a choice. Restore what they stole or watch as the cosmos does it for them in ways they can't control. Either way, the outcome is the same. You will be validated. Not faintly, not in shadows, but boldly in the same spaces where you were once shamed. The stage where they mocked you will be the same stage where your honor is announced. And dear soul, that moment is closer than you think, because the cosmos doesn't just repair reputations, it restores honor with the volume turned all the way up. And so, dear soul, we arrive at the final reality. Everything they tried to bury you with has become the proof of your ascent. Their lies, their attacks, their plots, they were never the end of your story, only the setup for your unveiling. The cosmos has already shifted the balance, and your name is being restored louder than ever before. If you felt this message resonate with your spirit, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more, comment the number 111 below, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today.